Alright guys, take a look at this bike. This is a Harley Davidson Heritage, a 2022 Heritage. Pretty nice. Definitely one of my favorite bikes. I'd say if I was to buy a Harley Davidson, I'd say I'm kind of on the fence between a Heritage and a Road King. The Road King Special is pretty awesome. Alright, so let's take this one for a test drive. Alright, so I just came off that Road King, and I noticed on this one, the seat isn't as fat as the Road King. It seems like it's thinner, especially up at the front part and the middle part of the seat. It's kind of interesting. I never really noticed that unless some of the stuff you don't really notice unless you ride one versus the other. Looks like the mirrors are standard Harley Davidson mirrors. Seems like these, sometimes it's really hard to move these mirrors. Really tough. This one just not as bad as some of them. Some of them are like rock solid. You feel like you're going to break it moving the mirrors. All right, to start it, you turn it on here. Get all the fancy buttons and lights going there. Make sure it's in neutral. Pulling the clutch. Pretty nice. I've also noticed these have a digital tachometer, which is kind of interesting. It's idling right around 1,000 RPM, which is pretty wild. Seat is really comfortable. The stance is really comfortable on this. I'm actually 6'4", 235 pounds. So yeah, pretty nice. There's some nice big floorboards. I always like to kind of check out the clutch. So the clutch, you have to move it out just a little bit, like right there. So not too far. Some of you have to let the clutch way out, and then the friction zone is real small. But it seems like on all these Harley Davidsons, the friction zone is pretty small. I mean, it's pretty wide, so you don't have to worry about like the really small friction zone. All right, so I'm going to take off on this one. All right, wish me luck. Here we go. Floorboards on this one. Floorboards. Very comfortable seat. You just kind of like, this is like so smooth. Super smooth. Silky smooth. All right. That was pretty nice, pretty nice. So the clutch, you kind of have to get used to the clutch on every single bike. They're a little bit different on every bike, which is kind of interesting. So I always like to pull up to a stop sign to kind of get a feel for the stop and go of the bike. Make a complete stop instead of just kind of rolling through it. Of course, you get the typical Harley Davidson clunk when you shift gears. That's pretty typical on just about every Harley Davidson. Yeah, maybe not with I don't know if they have that on the Pan America and the Sportster S are like the only two bikes that are really kind of outside of your typical, like, most Harley Davidsons have the same mirrors and all the same blinkers and equipment and everything, unless you get into the kind of the specialty ones like that with the Sportster S or the Pan America. So this is really smooth, really smooth. All right, let's see. Got a nice sound to it, nice sound. Nice pickup, really super fast. Really super fast on this one. Pretty nice. So it's kind of interesting looking at these bikes side by side. So the first thing I noticed on this one is there's a lot more road vibration and engine vibration coming up through the handlebars than you see on the Road King. The Road King is like silky smooth in the handlebars. It's like a completely different beast compared to this one. This one's got some good wind deflection, which looks like we might hit some rain, so I like having a little bit of wind deflection. If it actually rains, especially when it hails, I can kind of duck in between underneath that windshield, get away from the hail. That's kind of the worst. Oh, it's a big hail when you're going fast. But yeah, so the suspension on this is really nice. The seat's super comfortable. I'm going 55. Let's see, I'm in 5th gear. Wow. Alright, so 6th gear. Alright, so let's go 60. In 6th gear, we're at like 2100 RPM. Crazy. Yeah, so yeah. You could go really fast. I'd say the highway on this thing is no problem at all. One hand waving, pretty nice, pretty nice. Not bad at all. So yeah, this is like a completely different beast than the Road King that I just got off of. This is more like, well, it's kind of like the Softails. It's a little bit more road vibration, a little bit more raw, a little bit more classic of a look, I'd say, than some of them. Sometimes you'll get buffeting with the windscreens, where it kind of bobbles your head around like your head's in a paint can shaker. I don't feel any buffeting. As a matter of fact, I don't feel any wind at all in my upper body or my helmet or anything. You know, the other thing that's interesting is I can hear some wind up above my head. It seems like up into the left, like almost above my left ear. And it's pretty loud. It's the wind. It's weird. But it's not really hitting me. It's just kind of making noise up above me, which is, I've never really noticed on a Heritage before. I rode one of these last year. So this is pretty nice. Alright, I'm going to crack my visor. Whew. I'm steaming up here. Alright, so the clutches are pretty easy on these Harley Davidsons. I'd say probably one of the more difficult clutches, if you're test driving motorcycles, are the Indian clutches. Those I still can't get. It's hard to get used to those Indian clutches, because it's essentially what it is there's a lot of slack where you let the clutch way out, like 3 inches, and you still don't hit the friction zone. And then as soon as you hit the friction zone, you have like maybe half an inch in the friction zone before you're all the way out. And with Harley Davidsons, the friction zone starts closer. You don't have to put it out. There's not like a dead zone in there where you have to let it so far out. And once you hit the friction zone, it seems like the friction zone's like 2 inches, where it's a lot more forgiving. It's not as tricky. I've noticed on the BMWs too, it's kind of like the same way, where you have this like big dead spot and then a really short friction zone, which is really hard to get used to. When I first started riding Indians, it was like I could barely get going because I was like fumbling with the clutch. And I've never had that experience on Harley Davidsons. They have a really nice clutch. So this one doesn't have much rumble at all. I noticed on the Heritage I rode last year, it was kind of the same, where it was really quieted down, super quiet. But I know you can just change the exhaust and make them louder. So it's not really an issue if you want it louder. As far as stability on the road, super stable. No problem at all. Pretty awesome bike. It seems like on this one, it's easier to look at the speedometer. If you look up here and then look down, you can see how fast you're going. I can't remember what bike it was. I think it was the the Road King, the speedometer was like further down in the gas tank, and it seemed like you really had to take your eyes off the road to figure out how fast you're going. That's kind of the negative part of the Road King. I love the Road King though. I don't know. This bike or the Road King, it's a hard decision because they're like two completely different beasts. I kind of like the windscreen on this, and I like the look of the windscreen. But I don't know if I'd like the windscreen on the Road King. Alright, so this is where I'm going to turn around right here. Alright, let's see. So yeah, this, I don't know, I think I've ridden 5 Harley Davidsons today. Which one would I buy? I don't know which one I'd buy. It's like I ride one and then I'm like, ooh, that's the one I'd buy, and then I ride another one and it's like, ooh, I'd rather have that one. I'd probably buy all of them. So they're pretty awesome. The other thing that's kind of interesting, on my bike, I actually ride a 2007 Dyna Street Bob, and on that one the exhaust is so loud that you really can't hear the sound of the engine. And on this one it's, well, I guess it's got some roar. It's got some pretty good roar. If you give it some RPM, not too bad once you wind it out. Alright, so I'm gonna work on cracking my visor a little bit, because it was raining earlier, I was getting a little wet, and now everything is super humid. My visor keeps fogging up. So yeah, this one does have quite a bit of a roar to it when you bring the RPM up, so not too bad. So if I pull in the clutch and just cruise, you can feel pretty much all road noise. And if I let it out, yeah, so I'm feeling like half road noise and half engine vibration. Road vibration and engine vibration. So it's kind of like a mix of both on this one. Whereas on the Road King, I couldn't feel any road or engine vibration. It was a lot smoother. It was like you were floating on a cloud. And that too depends on what you really want. You know, some people like to feel the road, and you like to feel the bike. Like on the Street Bob. On the Street Bob, I really loved the feel. It had a completely different feel. It was almost like a chopper feel to it. And on that one, it's like you definitely want to feel the road and the engine vibration. Whereas maybe on the Road King you don't. It's like a completely different feel. It's a completely different bike. This one I kind of have mixed feelings because it's kind of like halfway in between. You kind of get the feel of the vibration like it's a chopper, I guess you'd say. But it looks more like a cruiser, like a classic cruiser than a chopper. So I don't know, if they made this one smooth as glass, I'd be happy with that too. Alright, so I've been driving for, I don't know, 20 minutes, and the seat is still comfortable. Still pretty comfortable. Not as comfortable as the Road King, but it's still comfortable. The Road King is definitely one of my favorites. It is, ooh, let's see. The Road King. The only thing about the Road King is it's not quite as fast as some of the other ones, just because of the weight of the Road King. This one's, I don't know. I don't know if this one's any faster than the Road King, but some of those bikes, like the Sportster S, whew, that thing was scary fast. It was so fun. And it was a really light bike too. So it all depends what you're looking for in a bike. I'd say most bikes, there's pros and cons to every single bike, so you really can't say, you know, definitively that one bike is better than another bike because there's pros and cons to every one. So like for example, this one, I don't know, this would be a good all-around. This is kind of like a good all-around middle of the road bike for cruising into town. You could probably even get on the highway and do some cross country with this. Alright, so I've also been riding for a little bit here, maybe 20-25 minutes, and it seems like, you know, sometimes the buffeting from the windshield kind of puts you off to the bike, where it kind of feels like your head's in a paint shaker and it kind of blurs your vision. There is zero buffeting on this, not at all. So I was kind of looking at where the wind is coming on this bike. It seems like there's like no wind on my hands or up my sleeves. You know, a lot of times you'll actually get a lot of wind up your sleeves. It seems like because of the shape of the windscreen, you don't really get the wind up your sleeves. But I am getting a lot on my legs. So, you know, if it started raining, I would think that windscreen would really keep it off my upper body, but my legs would probably get soaked. Which hopefully it won't rain. I actually took a break for a little bit because I got rained on one ride, and I thought I'd take a break and see where the rain, what it's doing. It seems like it kind of let up a little bit, so not too bad. Going around corners, very stable, pretty stable, not as stable as some. I'd say the Road King is a little more stable. The Fat Boy is a little more stable around the corners. But on this one, you don't really have to push that hard. It's like really super easy to push going around the corners. It's not like it feels like it has a really thin tire on the front. I haven't really looked at to see how thick the tire is, but it almost feels like the Street Bob, like really nimble and flickable, which is interesting. Alright, so we're coming back. This is actually the Harley Davidson demo days where I'm going through. I'm going to try to go through all 17 bikes over the next few days and do test drives on all of them. So that'll be interesting. I think this is number 5. I think this is number 5 so far. So I really like the gear indicator to kind of let you know what gear you're in. It seems like it's geared a little different than the Road King. Road King seems like the gears kind of wind out a little bit later. This one seems like you kind of hit higher RPM sooner. Maybe a little bit more torque at the beginning. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Would I ride this bike? Yes, I would buy this bike. This is a pretty nice bike. I would definitely change the exhaust system. I'd like to hear more exhaust than engine. This, you hear all engine in this one. That's the one thing. But that's an easy fix. You just swap out the pipe. Sometimes the pipes will have like a slip-on. You can just slip it on. Alright, so we're going to pull right in here. We've got quite a few more bikes to go. Alright, so we're going to go into neutral. Ah, I missed the neutral. This is the first bike where I missed the neutral. Ah, I missed it again. That's weird. That's weird. I can't find it. Alright, so all the other bikes that I've been on had a really buttery smooth clink right into neutral. And this one I can't seem to get it. Wow. It took me like 6 tries to get into neutral. I don't know what's going on with this bike. That's kind of crazy. Alright. I don't know if all my heritages are like that. Wow. So maybe that's just a function of the bike. That's kind of crazy. Alright, so there you have it. Alright guys, thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next one.